Welcome to the future.
Hello, my name is André Pawan Vashist. I am parts passionate activist, professional co-creator, and poetic storyteller.
Clear mind to think with, clear eyes to see with, clear ears to hear with, a clear mouth to speak with, and a clear heart to feel with. May we have the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, the courage to change the things we can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Truths we reveal, truths we conceal. There's so many layers to these truths that we can choose to peel. Stories are medicine. We can share them and choose to heal. Stories are medicine. I'll share mine and prove it's real. Bonjour, namaste, hello, my name is André Pawan Vashist, and I invite you today into a healing ceremony. And any healing requires medicine. And so today I brought with me sandalwood, one of the medicines of my father's land from South Asia that has beautiful properties. It can help purify within us and outside of us. And if stories are going to be medicine, they also require a seed, just like this plant had a seed at one point. And those seeds are the truths, sometimes buried deep within us, within our cultures, and our stories. And I want to share some of those truths with you today. And when we nurture those truths, it requires nutrients just like the plant. Love, courage. And when these truths emerge, they become a wilderness that we must brave with risk, preparation, faith. And so I want you to imagine that wilderness for a moment. In the backdrop, the mountains. And underneath us, the rocks and the stones. The ancient ones that have lived there long before us. And flowing from that mountain is a river that brings us to our present moment where all life flourishes. All the beings that live underneath the soil, on top of the land, in the sky, and in the water. Surrounded by trees and plants, the fungus, the bacteria, all that life that we cherish. And that river flows into an ocean that could feel like the future, full of possibility. But it's unknown who's there and who will be there before us and after us. And this timeline might seem very linear to you, but I want you to imagine the gift the water gives us. It rises from that ocean, goes back to the mountain, and creates cycles. And our stories and our time repeats itself. And I want you to imagine that river for a moment with two fish swimming inside, two young fish. And they're going along their journey and they bump into an older fish who says, "Hello, how's the water?" The two fish look at each other and say, "The water's fine. Have a great day." And they go along their journey. And as they continue along, one of them pauses and reflects and asks the other fish, "What the heck is water?" And during my journey, I didn't realize the water I was swimming in, the stories that I belonged to. And even when I knew the stories, I didn't know if they belonged to me, like being a boy, being a man, being a student, or being an employee, being a son, a brother, a father, a husband, a Canadian, a Torontonian, an Indian, a Quebecois, the list goes on. Were these part of my identities? And recently I've learned new stories about colonization, about capitalism, about patriarchy, about individualism and loneliness. And I'm going to take this platform of TED, which is about ideas worth spreading, and we're going to go a little deeper with identities worth sharing. So my story starts with my mom and dad. My dad comes from India, my mom from Quebec. They landed in Montreal in the 70s, and they couldn't speak the same language. They were from different cultures, yet they found something in common. They love to dance. And so they used the language of their bodies to connect and fall in love. And in that love, and if you've really been in love, you know that love can lead to heartbreak. And my dad got called back into India for an arranged marriage. And after a year, he annulled it and came back to this land, broke tradition to be with my mom and to create a new life. And they came to Toronto, and that was where I was born. And so in that story, there's a lot of love and heartbreak. My mom, she took me to India for a second time when I was 7 years old. And when I was there, we got stranded in the airport in Mumbai for 24 hours. And while I was there as a young boy, 7 years old, I just want to explore what's around me. And I ended up outside of the airport on a laneway watching people walking back and forth. And I saw a young boy, a little younger than me. He seemed poor. He seemed vulnerable. He was asking for help. He was asking for someone to help him. And I seen these two men who weren't from that land, travelers, who were walking along. They seemed strong, they seemed able, they seemed confident. And the boy asked him for help. And one of the men looked at him and rose his hand and struck him down. I was heartbroken. I was sad. I was confused. I was upset. I was scared. And as that man walked away, I thought, what could I do? I'm just 7 years old. Oh, I had a chocolate bar. And so I thought to myself, I'm just going to give him this chocolate bar. I'm going to make him feel love. And so he was walking in my direction, and my heart started pounding. I was nervous. I was like, what if I talk to him and he becomes humiliated because I saw him get hurt? Or what if I insult him and say the wrong things? He's coming. I said nothing. And he continues walking. Then my heart starts beating stronger now. Courage starts speaking. Andre, you turn around and you grab him, you tell him what you want to tell him. And I took him. I said hello. He didn't understand what I was saying because we didn't speak the same language. We couldn't understand what we were saying to each other. Yet I took the chocolate bar out. We knew what we were talking about. Love. I gave it to him, and he smiled. And I never forgot the feeling of that smile. It taught me that the courage to love is worth every fear and insecurity. And in hindsight, I also learned about colonialism, how people from different lands were oppressing other people. And it's a very sad journey, and one that we still live today. The next story I want to share with you is young Andre, teenage Andre. And he wants to enter into relationships. So I was approaching girls, wanted to have some girlfriends, and I had my aunties telling me, hey, Andre, make sure you put women above you when you treat them with respect. And I said, Auntie, why? Why would I put them above me? Aren't we supposed to be equal? I'm being taught we're all equal. Everyone treat each other equally. But they started realizing why. Because they hadn't been treated equal. My mom, the women of her generation, the women before that, had not been treated equal. And so to put them above was to make them equal again. And with the Me Too movement, that became true. We started seeing the river that we're swimming in, the stories that made us, and broken men create broken men. And so my story is true, that I became a broken man for a moment. And in high school, I fell in love. And I was in a great friendship of love and intimacy, and my partner had many highs and lows, and it reached a low one day. We're at a party, and I was filled with anger. I was filled with jealousy. In hindsight, it was fear and insecurity, and I rose my hand, and I slapped her in the face. A moment that broke her heart, that I regret. And I never made the same mistake twice. Yet as the Me Too movement emerged, the love and courage inside me revealed that I had to tell this truth. And so I called her, and I apologized. And she said, thank you. And we talked some more, and she revealed some other stories about her life that I was not aware of, the water that she was swimming in, and women around me were sharing these stories as well. So many people revealing this truth that we're all swimming in. And a couple days before this talk, I called her and asked her, may I share their story? Because it's not mine to share, it's ours. And she said yes. And she also said to me, Andre, I didn't know I needed that apology until I received it. Which taught me that healing is not a linear journey, sometimes not an obvious one. And today I work in a program in my organization around women entrepreneurship, where we put women as the leaders in our economy. And one of the leaders there talks to me about feminism as the opportunity for all genders to flourish. And so we live in a system of patriarchy. We are swimming in that waters, and it's our work to dismantle it. Now, I've become an adult. And I came here to University of Toronto Scarborough. One of my first lecture halls was here. I walked these halls just like many of you. And in those halls, just like my parents, I danced. And I met a beautiful woman. And we fell in love. And we became partners. And many years later, we got married, moved to another city, and we're expecting a child. And as we were expecting, someone said to me, Andre, you're nesting. What do you mean I'm nesting? Like, you're nesting, you're building a home. And I was like, that makes sense. Like, imagine that wilderness and those birds grabbing those branches and those twigs, getting support from their community and making a home. And there I was, building furniture and getting our home ready. And when it was ready, I was ready. The truth is, I wasn't ready. And so back into these halls, here I was, starting a club on campus, became the vice president of campus life. I was a research fellow in multiculturalism. I was an award recipient And the truth is, I never graduated from this place. 0.5 credit away. And you ask why? You're so close. You did so well. Why didn't you do it? And my heart was broken in that time where my mom died. She was my heart. She was my soul. And when she left, parts of me were broken. And I didn't have the emotional maturity to deal with it. And so I turned to drugs and alcohol to deal with it. And that journey maintained with me. I wasn't able to grow from that point. Even though I grew my career, even though I was going to raise a family, I wasn't ready. And it became so clear a couple months after my son was born. We were in Montreal for a wedding. And my wife and I left the wedding. We had a good time. We started fighting. And both our parents were there to greet us with our son. And we ended up arguing. And we were fighting over who should hold our son. And then our parents started getting upset. And they were arguing with us. And there we were in the daylight of Montreal fighting as a family in front of everyone. I was like, this is not right. And reflecting on what my son would have seen, I knew we couldn't live that way anymore. And we had to break a cycle. A cycle that was given to me by many of my ancestors, by my father and by my grandfathers, of abusing alcohol. That was the last month I ever drank alcohol. And I haven't ever drank in many years since then. And I've made the commitment that I'll never drink again for my entire lifetime. My son will never see me drink. Now, it seems like a happy ending, but there's more. Last year for my birthday, I went on a bit of a vision quest. And so when you stop drinking, and you stop doing these things, you start healing, you start to blossom. And I was doing so well in my career, I even graced the cover of my business magazine in my city. And I wanted to find out more about myself. And so I went on this quest, 4-night fast, 3 days, 3 nights in the land, just by myself, with the nature as guide, healer, and teacher. And I found out more about who I was. And they told me, when you go back home, you tell your family and friends who you are. And so I did. Some of them supported me, and some of them met me with anger, resentment. They were frustrated. André, why are you leaving? Be home, be here with us. And so my dad told me a story about 2 brothers. One brother went into the mountains for spiritual enlightenment, to get connected to the land, to find his purpose. And the other brother stayed home and built a farm and a family, raised a family. And many years after, the brothers came together to share their experiences. And so the brother with the farm grabs the sticks and throws it. He says, brother, you've been in the mountains. What have you taught us? Teach us something. How can you grab that stick for us? And so the brother meditated, calmed himself down, gathered his spiritual energy, and went for the stick. It didn't move. He says, brother, you've been here on the farm with your family. What have you learned? And he said, child, please grab the stick. It taught me that there's many opportunities in life to do different journeys. And when we get confronted with an or statement, Buddhism and many other cultures teach us that we don't say or, we say and. Is it this or this? Yes. And through that creative energy, through that creative tension, new cultures can emerge. As I shared this talk with my wife a couple days ago, she cried. I asked her, why? Why are you crying? She said, André, I see myself in those stories, broken. And I'm also so proud of how far we've come in our healing journey, and we hugged with gratitude to each other. So the final story I want to share with you is about my son. He's the next generation. And me and him, we go in the forest once a week, and we tell these stories of Pawan and bravery. We share our identities. We explore the land. We explore the land inside of ourselves, who we are. And my wife and I are very dedicated to his journey. We do the adventures of Pawan and bravery. His name's Avery. We nicknamed him Bravery. And I worry about the river that he's swimming in. And so I've shared you very personal stories. But there are bigger stories around us that have caught us in that stream, that are hard to imagine ourselves letting go of. And I'm going to take us to the ocean again, to a larger past and potentially a larger future, to explore what that story could be like. And I want you to imagine some humans that come from a place that we call Europe, Asia, Africa. They take boats, and they travel the oceans, and they come to a place that we call Turtle Island or the Americas. And with them, they come with a version of building a society, building a culture. And to do that, they have to extract from the land and move the people out of the way. And as they extract the land, and they move, and as they extract the land, they run out of the land. What do? They move west. And so they grab the land, they extract the land, they take the land, they move the people, they run out. What do? They move west. And they take from the land, they move the people, and what do? They move west. So there's nowhere else to go. And as we've driven to the skies, we've seen the earth from below, we know there's only one planet. And that story of capitalism is always about growth, that we can grow. There's always more. But now we know there's only so much that we can share. That story is every day in our GDPs, in our job growth, our profit growth, our inner growth. We're always trying to grow, 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 grow. And I'm worried about the ecological crisis. I'm worried about our planet, and I'm worried that my son's going to be part of that story. It's our job to help him think about a different story, collectively. And so I want you to take you back to the forest, back to that wilderness that we explored together. And I'm going to share a poem by David Whyte. As we walk along this forest, breathing like the ones in the ancient stories, who could cross a bed of dry and shimmering leaves without making a sound, we would come to a place that feels like nowhere, yet leads to everywhere. With only one task, to trouble us with tiny and frightening requests. Questions that can make and unmake our lives. Questions that have been patiently waiting for us. Questions that have no right to go away. Who are you? What is your name? Human. Does anyone know where human comes from, the word? Humus. The soil, the land. It's also related to the word humble. We are humble land beings. I was also embarrassed of my name once. In high school, my name, they called me Andre, but I had a middle name Pavin. And one of my friends who was enamored by Indian culture, I told her my name, but I didn't think she would tell anyone. And I would come late for English class, and one day I came late to English class, I opened the door, and everyone said, "Good morning, Pavin!" And they could see me, exposed, ashamed, embarrassed of my name. I wasn't ready to carry that identity. Now, recently I went to a gathering, we went to a circle, and everyone asked me, "What is your name?" I said, "Pavin." Hello. Proud of who I am. So I want to ask you, what is your name? I mean it. Not the one that the Starbucks barista takes when you want to get a coffee. I mean, what is your name? The name that when it's spoken, you know who you are. That when it's called out, you answer because you know what your life's purpose is, you know what your journey's about. I want you to close your eyes for a moment, actually. I want you to whisper your name to yourself. The name you want to reclaim. Pavin. Now we're in that wilderness again together. Love and courage. On the count of 3, we're going to say our names out together. We're going to bring our shared spirit into this room. Are you ready? 1, 2, 3. I heard you. I didn't feel you. I want to feel it. I want this room to feel our names. I want this room to feel our shared spirit of belonging. So with love, 1. And with courage, 2. What is your name? Pavin. We belong to each other in this moment. Stories are medicine. Let's share them and choose to heal. Let's apologize. Let's forgive. Let's go into the mountains. Let's raise our families. Let's confide in the ones we love, and let's share ourselves like I did with you today in front of my family, my friends, and the community I was raised in. We all have identities we're sharing. And I'll see you along the river.